Hello and welcome to From the Roots Up, where we're building our homestead little by little from the roots up. I'm Kristy, and today we are canning beef broth. It's day 27 in our Every Bit Counts challenge, where we've been putting something away every day in the month of August, and we are quickly drawing to a close. Today we are going to be doing something with these beef bones that I have had in the freezer for quite a while now. We have a rancher down the road, Can Beef Ranch, and she sells beef bones to make beef broth. And actually I've had these probably in the freezer since February, and I've been meaning to make beef broth, and there is no time like the present. So we're gonna walk through the process of making the beef broth, and then we're gonna show you how to pressure can it so you can keep it on your shelf. This is a fairly simple recipe. It just takes a little bit of time. So if you have an afternoon where maybe you've got some laundry to do or some other things going on, but you're home and you're by your stove, that's an excellent time to do it. You don't have to really babysit it a whole lot, but you do have to be around. First, you're gonna take your beef bones, and these still have a lot of skin on them, and they've got some marrow in them, which is great for beef broth. And you put them in a pot, really simple. And then you're gonna put some veggies in the pot. And really, it's up to you what kind of veggies you put. Carrots work great in a broth. I've got some carrots here. And you don't even have to cut them up, because we're gonna boil them long enough that they're gonna break down and the water's gonna absorb it. You're not canning the veggies with it anyway. We're gonna strain all that out, so you don't have to worry about really being particular. Also, I've got some onions. Again, you don't have to be particular about how you cut them. You can even leave the skins on them and dump them in. I've got some garlic cloves I'm putting in here, and you don't have to chop them up or anything. I'm leaving the skins on, but you do want to crush garlic, because crushing it releases the juices, and that's, we want to release the juices. So I crushed this garlic beforehand, and then I'm just putting in a couple things. I want to put in a couple of bay leaves for flavor, and really you can just choose what kind of spices that you enjoy. And I'm gonna throw some peppercorns in. And notice there's not an exact recipe for this. It really is this easy. And some salt. And then you just wanna put enough water in here that it covers the tops of your bones. Now all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cover this up, and I'm going to bring it to a boil on the stove. I'm gonna keep my eye on it though, because right before it comes to a boil, I'm gonna skim off the foam. And it's not 100% necessary, but it really does help with some of the bitter taste if you skim off that foam. And it's really easy to do right before it boils, because if you wait till it boils, the boiling water can kind of churn up the foam and make it harder to skim off. But right before it boils, you can just scrape it right off. All right, let's take it over the stove. Let's set it on high and start it to boiling. All right, this has been on the stove long enough, and you can see there's this scum on the top, and I'm gonna just pull that off. It just makes the broth taste a little better. We're gonna skim that off the top. You can wait till this step to put your veggies in. Some people like to do that because the veggies are floating, and sometimes it's easier to skim off the top, off the scum without the veggies floating. Now, once we do this, we're gonna let this boil for about 3 hours. And then we will pull it off and can it. All right, we've been boiling for about 2.5 hours. Have about half an hour left. So I went ahead and put the pressure cooker on to heat up the water and the jars inside, because when I put the hot broth in it, I want to make sure the jars are the same temperature, or at least close to the same temperature. I don't want to put hot broth into cold jars, and then I don't want to put the hot jars into cold canning liquid. So I want to make sure it's all the same temperature so we're not cracking anything. All right, we have been boiling this for 3 hours. Our jars and our water is nice and hot, and now we're gonna strain it. So we're gonna take some cheesecloth, and I'm gonna set it in the strainer here, and I'm just putting it over just a bowl. And I'm gonna ladle in the broth, and we'll filter out all of the big chunks of things. All right, now we have a couple of containers of broth, and if we look, we can see some fat starting to rise up to the top. I'm just gonna skim some of that off. If you wanna skim more of it off, you can wait till the broth cools. You don't have to do that. When you take the fat out, or at least some of the fat out, it helps make the broth a little more clear in the jar, but it's not 100% necessary. As long as when we seal the jars, we make sure that there's no fat around the edges or the tops of the jars. That can hinder the sealing process. All right, we're gonna pull our hot heated jars out of the canner. And now we just fill, and with broth, we want an inch of headspace, and headspace is the distance between the top of the jar and the top of the canning liquid. So I had enough broth for 2 quart jars and 1 pint jar. And I'm gonna make sure that there's no fat on the top of these jars. And the best way to do that is with some white vinegar. And we're gonna take this and we're gonna run it around the top of the jar and the edges. And this should break down and remove any of the fat, because fat can hinder that seal. Now, once we've cleaned off all of these, we want to go ahead and seal them up. So we're going to take a clean, fresh lid and put it on the top. Take your ring, twist it till it's finger tight, and then a little bit more. You don't want to wrench down on it, because if you wrench down, then it can cause the lid not to seal. And that's all there is to this part. Now we can put the jars into the canner. Now, this canner has about 2 to 3 inches of water in the bottom. In a pressure canner, you do not want the water to cover the tops of the jars. Always, before we seal our All-American pressure canner, we're going to lubricate the lid with olive oil right around where the lid contacts the bottom, and this helps it seal, and it also gives it a little bit of lubrication. Then we're going to take it, there's a divot right here on the bottom of the canner, and then there's a little arrow. We're going to match those up, and we're going to twist, and it's going to cause the little hooks to go up under the arms. In order to seal it, we're going to seal up the opposite sides first and twist these, and just evenly all the way around, opposite sides and twist, and opposite sides and twist, and now we can tighten all of them. Now, before you use your canner, every time hold this lid up to the light and make sure you can see through this spout. If you cannot, you want to make sure you clear it out, because this is where the steam is released. For this recipe, we're going to be canning at 10 pounds of pressure for 25 minutes. You want to check the ball canning website for your pressure at your specific altitude, because that changes depending on where you live. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the pressure canner over to the stove. We're going to turn the stove on high and let it start boiling. Then this valve is going to start spewing steam. Once it starts spewing steam, we're going to set the timer for 10 minutes. At that point, once it's been spewing steam for 10 minutes, we're going to take this little weight and we're going to put the 10-pound side right on top of that nozzle. Then it's going to come up to pressure, and this weight will start to shimmy and shake. Once that happens, the pressure gauge should read 10, and we're going to set our timer for 25 minutes. That's at the point the processing time starts. Once that timer goes off, we'll turn the stove off completely, and we'll let it sit until the pressure releases all the way down to 0. Once the pressure has gone down to 0, then we can open up the canner and pull out our jars. All right, that's our 10-minute timer. Now we have been spewing for 10 minutes, And we are gonna go ahead and put our 10-pound weight right on there. And in just a couple minutes, that will start to jiggle. The pressure will go up to 10, and we will set our timer for 25 minutes. Once the 25 minutes is up, we'll turn the stove off. We'll let the canner depressurize down to 0, and then I'll see you back here so that we can open it up and get our broth out. Okay, our jars are done processing, and once the pressure went down to 0, we opened the lid and let them sit for about 10 minutes. Doing this kind of helps regulate the temperature, and it helps with the siphoning. If you pull hot cans out too fast, sometimes the liquid inside can siphon out. So we're gonna go ahead and pull these out now. And look at that lovely broth. We'll leave these out to cool on the counter tonight, but tomorrow morning we do want to take the rings off and check and make sure that these sealed all the way. If they haven't sealed, we do have time to get them in the fridge. We have about 24 hours to get them in the fridge, and then we can use them. But these look like they've already sealed and are doing a great job. So now we have some beautiful beef broth to add to our collection of our preserved food for the Every Bit Counts challenge. And if you've missed any of those videos where we've been preserving food every day in the month of August, be sure to check that playlist out right over here. If you got some value out of this video, be sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so that you can be notified when we put up new content. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.